China is a land of contrasts where ancient tradition meets modern innovation, and every region tells a completely unique story. Our 1-month adventure through China took us to 8 incredible places, starting in Beijing and ending in the vibrant city of Guangzhou. Along the way we experienced everything from ancient cities to the iconic floating mountains. In this video we'll be sharing our thoughts on each destination. We'll talk about the places we absolutely loved and how long we spent there, and the main things to see and do in each place. And finally, we'll break down what we'd do differently if we were to replan this epic itinerary. Whether you're dreaming of a trip to China or already planning one, we hope our journey inspires yours.
Hi guys, we're Sarah and Callum, and today we're going to take you through our China itinerary. We spent a whole month here and we cannot wait to show you what we got up to.
We're going to be talking about how long we spent in each place on our itinerary, why we visited, what there is to see and do, and if there's anything that we would change if we was to revisit. So grab a tea or coffee and let's get straight into this video.
Beijing was the first destination on our Chinese itinerary, and for good reason. This bustling capital was somewhere we just had to visit on our trip to China, as it has so much to offer. The opportunity to visit the Great Wall of China, amazing food options and easy public transport makes it an ideal first stop for anybody planning a visit to China. If you're into architecture and history, then Beijing has so much to offer, and you can easily spend time exploring iconic sites such as the Temple of Heaven and Summer Palace, or wander around beautiful outdoor areas such as Jingchang Park.
So Beijing was our first stop in China, and it was actually a really good stop. We spent 5 days in total in Beijing, which I think we would say is a good amount of time.
Yeah, I reckon so. We also had enough time to do a day trip out to the Great Wall of China, which was really good. And then we had 4 days in the actual city itself to then explore and see all the sort of main things to see and do.
I would say that in Beijing there's a lot of places that take a lot of time to explore, so you do actually need that time. So places such as the Summer Palace, for example, you can spend half a day exploring the Summer Palace alone, maybe even longer.
I was actually going to say, you could actually, if you were really enjoying it, you could easily spend a whole day in the Summer Palace. It really does sort of depend what you want to spend time seeing and doing. There's loads to do, isn't there?
There is loads to do. One of our favourite places was actually the Temple of Heaven. We loved the Temple of Heaven. And again, that was another place where you could actually spend hours and hours exploring it. I would say we probably spent about 4 or 5 hours there, and that we didn't see everything. There's so much to see and do. If
you want to just kind of get a taste of everything, then maybe half a day in each place, and you could probably even squeeze that into 3 days. We did 4, and I think that was quite nice to then sort of be able to spread out the attractions and things to see and do. Also adding on that extra day for the Great Wall of China.
Yeah, so obviously the Great Wall of China is a must if you're visiting Beijing. There are different sections that you can visit. So we decided to visit Mutianyu section, I believe. Mutianyu section, which is quite easy to get to from Beijing. There's an easier section to get to, but we chose Mutianyu section basically because it gets less tourists. So depending on which section of the wall you choose to visit, you might need to give yourself a little bit more time, because some of the sections are a lot further out. So just bear that in mind if you're planning a trip to Beijing.
So there's also loads of really good food options in Beijing. So if you're into your food, then there's loads of great places to go and food to try. So for example, we went to Dashilan Street, and this is shopping and food, but it's this great big long street, loads of sort of food stalls and little bits you can try there, which is great.
It was actually one of our favourite places in Beijing. As soon as we saw it, so we actually went twice, as soon as we saw it, we kind of fell in love with the place. It's got loads and loads going on there. It's really busy. There's street vendors selling all different types of food. There's all crafts and things that you can buy there. There's loads of stuff going on in Dashilan Street. So we definitely recommend adding Dashilan Street to your itinerary. Some other things would probably be Pearl Market, which is a big kind of mall sort of thing, isn't it? Like a shopping centre. It's famous for its pearls, but you can also get loads of things there. So for example, we bought a case for our tablet, and it was so cheap, wasn't it? It was really good.
Although I would say if you're into shopping, then there are other places in China that are probably even better.
Yeah.
So, if you're short on time and you've only got Beijing, then that's a good place to do some shopping. But if you watch to the end of the video, we'll also tell you somewhere else that is a great place to get some sort of electronics and gadgets. So.
Yeah, so you want to stay right to the end of the video because we loved it, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a cool place.
Another food option would be to go and try the famous Beijing duck, which while you're in Beijing, you've got to try. A lot of the social media videos that you'll see are someone dressed up all in their chef's gear and they're chopping the duck and stuff. We didn't actually do that. We went to like kind of a backstreet place, and I think it cost us about £17 for like a whole roast duck, which was really good.
Yeah.
The duck was really tasty, and like in the UK that would cost you probably £35-40. Like it's a lot more expensive. So that was really good. Another thing is to obviously visit the famous Forbidden City. Now, we had a little problem with that, which we're going to talk about in a minute. In terms of that, what things would we change if we was to revisit Beijing?
Yeah.
We would plan more. We would plan a lot more, wouldn't we?
Definitely. So we arrived into Beijing with not much of a plan. We knew sort of some of the main things we wanted to do, but we hadn't booked anything in. And we went in sort of peak summer, so it was very busy.
Yeah.
That's a very like high tourist season, and probably should have booked a little bit more in advance, because the Forbidden City and Tiananmen Square, you have to book at least a week in advance.
Yeah, I think they release tickets a week before, and they just go like that. People have said that you can get tickets on the day if you go and speak to the right people. We didn't find that. We basically turned up, we asked around, and there was no way we was getting a ticket for that day.
Yeah.
So the alternative, what we did was we went to a place called Jingshan Park, which obviously isn't the Forbidden City, but it does give you amazing views over the Forbidden City, which we'd highly recommend.
Yeah, actually, it was a really cool park, and we went there to try and get the views over the top. But actually, just wandering around the park itself was really nice as well.
Yeah.
So, if you find yourself in a position like we did, then definitely go to that park. Or learn from our mistake and actually just book tickets in advance, and then you'll be able to wander around and you'll be able to explore that amazing part of Beijing.
I feel like, learn from our mistake, because we still now feel like we have to go back to Beijing, even though we spent quite a bit of time there. We'd go back just because we want to see the Forbidden City, because it did look really cool from the top. Another thing that we do differently if we was to return to Beijing is we probably visit a different section of the wall. Now, this doesn't mean that we didn't enjoy the section that we visited, because we really did, and it is easy to get to. However, we have heard that some sections of the wall are more rugged because they're not fully restored. So if you're to visit, I think it's Jingshanling section of the wall, quote me if I'm wrong, but that is like a more rugged area of the wall, which is a lot further out than the other areas that we visited. But you do kind of get more of a rural, less people there. You can literally walk along the wall and you probably won't see many people. So to visit that section of the wall, you probably would need to book an organised tour, because it is quite far out. There are tours on apps such as Klook, and we do have a 10% discount code. Just quote 2 Brits on the go, and that could give you a discount if you're looking to do that sort of tour. But for us, we just stayed with the Mutianyu section. It was really easy to get to on public transport.
So before we talk about the next destination, we just wanted to say that the way we've been getting around in China was via the trains, and they've actually been really, really good. So they were quite affordable. They're really fast. You can actually get bullet trains in China, which we didn't realise before coming here. So between each destination, we actually got a train, and that made things really easy. And we definitely recommend that as a good way to get around. You can also fly between destinations, which, if you're short on time, that could be quite a good option. And maybe we should have done that for some of the journeys, but actually we found getting the trains really good, really easy. So
if you're limited on time, maybe flying would be a better option, because it can take a while to get between certain destinations. But for us, we just found the trains were really, really comfortable and a really easy way of getting around China.
Yeah.
After spending a good amount of time in the Chinese capital, we decided to get on a high-speed train and started making our way across the country. Our next destination was the ancient city of Pingyao, and this ended up being one of our all-time favourite places in China. This well-preserved city from the Ming Dynasty is the ideal first stop if you're travelling from Beijing, as it's only 3 to 4 hours by train. A visit to Pingyao is like stepping back in time, as you'll get to stay within the walls of the ancient city. There's also lots of incredible food to taste, such as beef copper hot pot dishes and lots of street food. One of the best things about visiting Pingyao is that at night the city comes alive. Expect to see streets light up, and you can even experience a light show that's projected along the ancient walls.
So we spent 2 nights and 1 day in Pingyao, and actually I think that was a perfect amount of time. We arrived on the first day sort of in the afternoon, so we're able to actually go and explore Pingyao itself in the evening,
which was really
cool.
Really cool.
We got to stay inside the walls of the ancient city itself, so that in itself is a really cool experience.
Yeah, we didn't actually realise, so Pingyao was kind of a last minute addition to our itinerary, so we didn't have any expectations for it. And like we said before, it ended up being one of our favourite places in China. And I think the main reason for that was because you could stay within the walls of the ancient city, kind of everything was accessible. So the places you were eating were all kind of ancient Chinese architecture, like the restaurants and things. just walking around at night, everything lit up. It was just a beautiful place to stay. So I think 2 nights was like a good amount of time to stay in Pingyao. There isn't actually like an awful lot to do other than kind of going around and exploring the area and seeing the architecture, but it is nice to stay overnight there. We felt like if we just did a day trip to Pingyao and didn't stay overnight, we wouldn't have had the full experience.
I definitely agree with that. But then in the day, you can also walk along the walls all the way around the city itself. And we did that, and we actually got the walls completely to ourselves, probably because it was like boiling and nobody else was like, had the same idea that we did. But it was really good, and we could see over the other side of the wall, and then you could actually get a nice view across all of the architecture from above. So that was really cool, and definitely would recommend doing that.
So then another thing that we did in Pingyao, so we loved this because in the evening they did a light show that projected along the ancient walls. We was really lucky because we nearly missed it, but we managed to catch the last 10 minutes of it, which was incredible. We're so glad that we did. And basically, I've never seen a light show like it. I don't know about you.
No, it was really amazing. Just wasn't expecting it to be that good. And literally the whole length of the front of the wall it was just covered, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It looked really good. And they played music as well. Everybody went out there to go and see it. So that was a nice experience too.
It does get quite busy, so in summer it was very, very busy, but actually it didn't really take away from the charm of the city. It was still really, really beautiful, and we thoroughly enjoyed our time there. Yeah. And also the accommodation where we stayed, it was like £12 per night. It wasn't anything like majorly special, but coming from Beijing, where it was a lot more expensive, straight over to Pingyao, where it's like £12-13 a night for accommodation, it was quite nice. It was good.
There's a whole range of options there. The only thing actually to note with that is that when we arrived, our taxi driver dropped us off at the walls of the ancient city. So if you are planning to go and stay within the walls, just note that public transport or taxis can't then go in to the city itself. So you'll get dropped off at the outside and you'll have to walk to your accommodation. So if you're looking for somewhere to stay, make sure it's kind of near the edge of a wall. Because
we was lucky. We was very lucky because actually when the taxi driver said this, we thought, oh no, like, because it is quite big within the walls. Like you could walk for quite a while, couldn't you? And we had our big backpacks, and luckily it was only a 10-minute walk, but I would imagine if you was right in the middle of the city, you'd be walking a good 20-25 minutes probably. It's a long way, so you probably want to... you can hire golf buggies actually, but yeah, we didn't know that until we arrived, so we was quite lucky, but yeah, that's a good tip. So is there anything that we would change if we was to revisit Pingyao? Probably not, no, I don't think we would. We thoroughly enjoyed our time there. I think 2 nights was a perfect amount of time there, and it was a good place to break up the journey for our next destination.
This brings us on to the next stop on our itinerary, which was Xi'an, and it was super easy to reach by train from Pingyao. In our opinion, Xi'an is a must-visit destination in China. This city in central China marks the eastern end of the Silk Road and has history dating back thousands of years. Most people, including us, add Xi'an to their itinerary because they want to see the famous terracotta warriors. However, we didn't realise before visiting that Xi'an has so much to see and do, and the city itself is the perfect mix of cultures.
So we actually spent 3 days in Xi'an, which we think was a good amount of time, but you could, if you wanted to, condense it into less time, maybe 2 days, but we'd probably recommend about 3 days in Xi'an. Some of the main things to do in Xi'an outside of the city include visiting the Emperor's Mausoleum, which is a must-do in China. The area is absolutely incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you don't realise already, this is where the Terracotta Warriors or the Terracotta Army is. And it was a really, really cool place to visit.
You've probably seen the Terracotta Army before, where each of the faces is completely different and there's thousands of them. So it's a really unique experience. We'll talk a little bit more about the Terracotta Warriors in a minute when we talk about things that we probably do differently. But other things to do in Xi'an, we did the Bell and Drum Towers, didn't we? They were very cool.
Yeah, they were really cool. And that was in the actual city itself. And there was also the Small Goose Pagoda, and that was really cool.
There's also a big goose or a giant goose pagoda.
Yep.
We only chose to see one of the goose pagodas because we thought they do look quite similar. But a lot of people do visit both of them, and they are very impressive actually. Really, really impressive. So another area of Xi'an which is well worth visiting is the Muslim Quarter, because it actually gets a lot of influence from the Silk Road, or previously got a lot of influence from the Silk Road. And if you visit the Muslim Quarter, there's lots and lots of really good food options there, lots of street food and stuff. So that's probably something you want to add to your itinerary if you're visiting Xi'an. Finally, we just found that the restaurants in Xi'an were really cool. So a lot of them had like loads of outdoor seating. You can get kind of big beer towers, you can get loads of food that you just order in, have it spread across a table. And we just sat out in the evening till quite late, didn't we? And it was really nice. It was such a good atmosphere in Xi'an.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's across the whole of Xi'an, but particularly where we stayed, we found that a lot, and it was really nice, really good atmosphere.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll actually put up on screen now where we stayed. We don't fully know the name of the area off the top of our heads, but we'll put it on screen because it was a really nice area.
Yeah, it was a good location as well because it was fairly close to the train station, so it meant that when we actually arrived, we didn't have to travel too far. We didn't go right into the city, but it was close enough to jump on the metro lines to then go into the city to explore it. So it was quite a good, we found it was a good location for whilst we was in Xi'an.
And that's another thing about Xi'an as well. The metro there is really, really good, really handy to get around. It's probably just as good as Beijing, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Like most cities in China have a really good metro system. So it does make getting around and seeing all these highlights really, really easy.
And another thing to add to that as well is that on the metro system, there's a lot of English. So you won't actually struggle too much to get around. The signposts have got English on them. The ticket like stations where you use the machine to then print off tickets, or if you do it on your phone, you know, it's fairly easy to navigate. And like Callum said, the metro system in most of the cities that we went to, actually all of the cities we went to.
Every city in China.
Yeah, it was really good, easy to use. So great way to get around.
Definitely.
So I think the only thing that we would change from our time in Xi'an is that when we went to visit the Terracotta Warriors and the Terracotta Army, we did get like an audio guide. So we booked our tickets online in advance, which was fantastic because it was quite busy there when we arrived. Again, because it was during the peak season. But we got an audio guide, and this was fantastic because it was explaining things as we went around, but it was quite hard to try and actually work out, you know, if you were stood in the right place for what it was talking about. So I think in retrospect, it would have actually been nice to have had a guide. Yeah. We did see a lot of tour groups going around, and they looked like they were in quite big groups. So another recommendation probably is try and get a small group tour if you can. And you know, you might be able to find something like that on Klook. There's loads of options on there that we found. So. Yeah,
Klook's a really good option for it, but like Sarah said, a small group option would be loads better, purely because some of the areas are quite narrow within the pits and the archaeological sites. So if you're in a big group and you see quite a lot of them, it's quite hard to kind of navigate your way around because it's so busy. And yeah, getting a tour would be loads better because basically we was just wandering around different spots, and the audio guide would then switch to a different part. It wasn't the best audio guide, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah, we still learned a lot, but it was kind of hard to figure out if what you were listening to was actually the right spot for where you were standing. So that would have been a lot better.
Maybe it was just us, to be honest with you. Maybe we were just wandering around the wrong way or something. But it did seem like it was much better to get a tour.
Yeah, I think we would have got more out of having an actual person who was guiding us around, because then, you know, you knew you were at the right place with that. And maybe actually if you was to go a little bit earlier in the day, I think that's probably another thing that we, in hindsight, wish we'd done. I think we probably arrived sort of middle of the day to the afternoon.
11 to 12 o'clock, no?
Yeah.
Something like that.
But I think with everything, you know, if you're going to a major tourist spot, the earlier you can get there, the better.
The next destination on our itinerary was Chengdu, located in Sichuan province. This iconic destination is known around the world for being home to China's favourite animal, the giant panda.
So when we went to Chengdu, we had 2 full days here, and we spent 1 full day going out to the research base to go and see the giant pandas. Which
was absolutely incredible. We loved it. Way more than we even thought we would love, actually. But do we think 2 days was enough to explore Chengdu? Well, for us, probably not, because we actually got ill on one of the days, so we didn't explore Chengdu city, which we're kind of gutted by, really. It did look like a really, really cool place to explore. So in the future, we'd probably go back there and spend longer.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Definitely. The giant pandas, definitely worth the visit. That kind of takes up 1 full day because the research base is huge. It's massive, isn't it?
We weren't expecting that at all. You know, there's so many areas to walk around and so many different like enclosures. There's indoor and outdoor, and there's not just the giant pandas there as well. There's also the red pandas.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, the red pandas were really cool, which was kind of an addition that we didn't think we'd see there too. There's also like a McDonald's there. There's loads of restaurants there. It's a really big place, so you can actually spend a full day there. Yeah. But the one tip for that is to get there very, very early because the pandas actually come out in the morning and they get fed in the morning, so you've got a better chance of seeing them in the outdoor enclosures in the morning, which we'd highly recommend.
Yeah, and I guess along with that as well, the pandas, if it gets too hot, they get moved inside.
Yeah.
So if you want to see them outside and a little bit more in a not natural environment, then going earlier is better.
It is much better. So other things to do in Chengdu, you can actually spend a lot of time going outside of Chengdu city. For example, there's a giant Buddha carved into the rock. Obviously we was ill, so we didn't have time to do any of this, but that's probably something that we'd recommend doing if you're to visit Chengdu, and we would definitely do it if we were to return. We've heard very, very good things about it. And also Chengdu city itself looks really, really cool, so we're very, very gutted that we didn't get to see that.
Yeah, and I think if we were to advise other people, probably 3 days in Chengdu if you want to do the pandas, the city itself, and things that are a little bit further outside of the city. If you are only interested in seeing the pandas, you probably only need a day. I think 2 days for us probably would have been a perfect amount of time. Unfortunately, we just only got to see the pandas.
So talking about good cities, obviously we weren't best pleased that we were ill in Chengdu because we did miss out on the city. However, the next city that we visited definitely made up for it.
Yes, definitely. After visiting the famous giant pandas in Chengdu, we were extremely excited to explore the next destination on our trip, Chongqing. This municipality in southwest China is roughly the size of Austria and has a population of over 30 million people. This megacity has quickly become one of our all-time favourite cities in the world, and we would return there in a heartbeat.
So unfortunately, we only had 2 days in Chongqing and we could have stayed there forever. We loved this city. However, we would probably say about 3 days is a good amount of time to explore the city. Some of the main things that we did in Chongqing include visiting Longmenhao Old Street, which was beautiful. It kind of mixed the old ancient architecture with modern buildings, which looked unbelievable. One of the best cities we've ever visited, and Longmenhao Old Street is a must-visit location. Other things include getting the cable car across the river, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wasn't the best experience, if we're honest. For us, we had quite a bad experience because the weather made the cable car sort of not run, and we was already in the line. And then also you have to wait about 2 hours before you can even get into the line anyway. So it is quite busy. Probably not worth the wait, we would say. But in general, the views along the river were very, very good. So
yeah, I think you can be alongside the Yangtze River and it looks really cool, and you can go between different parts of the city without doing the cable car. And if I'm honest, unless it's something that's absolutely, top of your list to do, probably wouldn't recommend the time that you have to wait versus the short distance that you're going across the river on the cable car. It did have kind of cool views, but it wasn't like our favourite thing that we did in Chongqing. So save the time and use it somewhere else, I think.
yeah, definitely, because there's so much to see and do in Chongqing. Other things to do include the Liziba viewing platform. So you might have seen this on social media. It's a very popular video on social media, and it's actually one of the reasons why we wanted to visit Chongqing, and we're so glad we did. Basically, you've got a building, a residential building, and a train that goes directly through the building, which is awesome. It kind of blows your mind. You're like, wow.
Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it? Like, you just don't expect to see something like that. It's really cool. So it's no wonder that everybody goes there to try and see it, yeah.
Yeah, and other things about Chongqing, it's basically built on different levels. So you can walk out, think you're on the ground floor, find an area, look down, and you're actually not. There's like 2 other levels below you. It's really hard to explain. It's just such a cool place.
I think because the city is actually then built into the side of the mountain, so everything is on levels, and you can almost be on the ground and look up and you can just see all these roads like above you, all in different directions, all on different levels. It's a really, really cool place to visit. And I think the thing that we liked most, which we've not touched upon, is Hongya Cave.
Yeah, that was just mind-blowing. So basically what it is it's like an old wooden stilt structure that's built into the side of, I think it's built into the side of like a wall cave. No, what is it?
Into the cliff of the side of the mountain. Almost.
Yeah, into the side. It's quite hard to explain, but it's so incredible. Basically, it's built into the side of the mountain, and at night time it lights up and it glows like this bright yellow colour, and you can go and get a view of it from a bridge. And from the bridge, you can see this amazing sort of lit up old architecture. And in the background, it's got all the modern buildings of Chongqing. It really is something that just kind of is a wow moment, isn't it?
It is. It really, the contrast between the old and the new, especially at night, like you said, as soon as it lights up. I think like when we were there, it lit up about 8 o'clock at night. We were on the bridge, we were waiting for it, and we saw all the lights turn on at once, and it looked amazing.
Yeah, it was like bang on 8 o'clock. Sarah was like filming, And there's a video where she's filming and it's like all dark, and then it clicks, and then all the lights just turn on in one go, and it looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah, so definitely make sure you visit that area and go and see all the lights turn on at night, because it just looks amazing.
Yeah. Another thing to do is to visit a place called Guilin Park, which we'd really recommend actually. Chongqing is a very, very busy city. We mentioned earlier that there's about 30 million people in the municipality. So as you can imagine, it's very, very busy. But to escape that, you can visit Guilin Park. And it was really nice there because it's quite a relaxing area. There's some like really old architecture, like in terms of bridges and things. There's a thing called the Rope Bridge, which we really enjoyed. And then whilst you're there, you can also get views over Chongqing because it's on the mountain. Like it's at the top of like a big hill / mountain. So we'd recommend that because you can get views and see how big Chongqing really is. Is there anything that we would change if we was to return to Chongqing? We loved our time in Chongqing, so we wouldn't change anything. We would definitely return. That would be a no-brainer for us.
I feel like there's a lot more to explore that we just didn't get the chance to, because as we said, we only had 2 days here. So I think at least, well, now that we've been, we would probably have added another day or two just to really take everything in.
Yeah, and I would say that another thing that you can do is you can do a river cruise down the Yangtze River. If you've got more time, then you could do a river cruise that's maybe like a 4 or 5 day river cruise starting in Chongqing that would take you through all the beautiful scenery in that area, which would be really, really good. The next part of our trip was a dramatic change. We swapped the bustling city of Chongqing for the breathtaking mountain landscapes of Zhangjiajie National Park. We spent our time here admiring the jaw-dropping scenery that inspired the floating mountains in the Avatar film. The otherworldly landscapes of Zhangjiajie look like they've been pulled straight out of a fantasy film, and within the national park you can experience unique attractions such as Bailong Elevator, which scales a 300-metre cliff. We then ventured outside the national park and visited one of China's famous natural landmarks, Tianmen Mountain.
We spent about 4 days in the national park itself, and we thought this was a really good amount of time. So we saw the national park, and there's loads to see and do here. It's a really big place. And we also in this time visited Tianmen Mountain, and that was really cool as well.
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a whole video about Zhangjiajie National Park because that area is huge and there's lots to know about this area because how you do it is very important, how many days you spend there and what you do on each day. And we actually got quite confused about kind of the maps and which routes to do and things. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a full video where we kind of explain everything for you. So if you don't already, then please subscribe to our channel because next week we're talking everything about this national park.
One of the last stops on our journey in China was the charming city of Guilin, known for its dramatic landscape of limestone hills and its famous sun and moon pagodas.
So we actually had 2 days to explore Guilin, but basically due to the times that our train arrived and the times that our train was departing, it left us with very little time to actually explore Guilin properly. So we spent most of the time in the city and then we actually spent half an afternoon just relaxing. Like our hotel had amazing views of the hills. And by this point, we'd spent a lot of time on trains, exploring the national parks. We were getting very tired. So by this point, we just wanted an afternoon to just relax. And that's kind of what we use Guilin for. So in terms of the city, some of the things that we did was we visited the sun and moon pagodas, which were really, really beautiful actually.
Yeah, and they were situated on a lake. You can walk around the lake itself as well. So that was a really nice little day trip out, I think.
Yeah, other things that you can do include visiting Elephant Trunk Hill. It's called Elephant Trunk Hill because it looks like an elephant's trunk and there's like a hole in the middle of it. That was quite nice. That was really good. You can go up there and you can get kind of views and you can see the mountains for quite a long way away.
We also did go and visit a cave.
Yeah, we visited Reed Flute Cave, which was really cool. So within the cave, they kind of light the cave up with all multicolored lights. So it's like purple and red and green and stuff. So mainly in Guilin, we visited the cave, we did the sun and moon pagodas, and we pretty much relaxed. So that was our time in Guilin. Do we think that was enough time there? Probably for us it was.
Yeah.
But if you are visiting Guilin, then one of the things that you can do is you can get a boat that takes you all the way down the river. We looked at this and it would have taken a full day out of our trip. And obviously we wanted to see Guilin for Guilin. So we didn't really want to go and do a big trip outside of Guilin.
It was also quite an expensive day trip compared to what we've done in the past, and compared to other things in China as well. So just to sort of touch on that, we've done quite a bit in Vietnam, and the scenery in this area is starting to look a bit more like Vietnam. So for us, it wasn't something that we felt we needed to go and do. It does look amazing.
It is supposed to be absolutely beautiful, but like Sarah said, we did Vietnam very close to visiting China. So for us, it didn't seem like a priority, and we'd already done like some amazing things the previous few days in Zhangjiajie National Park. So yeah, we would say that's probably the only thing we would change if we was to go back now, because it's not so close to when we visited Vietnam. So if we was to go back now, we probably would do a river cruise down the, I think it's the Li River, which would be really beautiful. But other than that, we really enjoyed Guilin as a city. The final stop on our itinerary was Guangzhou, which is one of China's oldest trade hubs. We used our time in Guangzhou to enjoy good food, marvel at the modern architecture, and explore the many electronic markets this city has to offer.
Okay, so by this point, we kind of had limited time left in China, so we were restricted to only 2 days in Guangzhou. We actually found that this was quite a good amount of time, although the city, again, is huge, so there's loads to go and see and do. And we actually really enjoyed Guangzhou more than maybe we expected to.
Yeah, we didn't really have any plans or ideas for Guangzhou. It was kind of like the last stop on our route and the place we were flying out of. It made sense for us to fly out of there because it was cheap for our next destination we was visiting. But it really surprised us. It was a really nice place. I think Guangzhou is famous for its food, so you can get a lot of good food options in Guangzhou. We probably didn't take advantage of this as much as we should have. We did eat some of the local dishes though, such as the roast goose, which was very, very tasty.
Yeah, you like that, didn't you?
I really like that. Yeah, that was right on my street. What else did we do? So earlier we mentioned that if you're going shopping, then Beijing is good, but maybe to wait for another destination. And this is actually Guangzhou.
So in Guangzhou, there's a lot of sort of electronic and gadgets and lots of markets where you can kind of go and wander and explore, and you can get really good value products there. So, you know, if that's the sort of thing that you're after, then Guangzhou is definitely the place to go and visit.
100%. We would go back with an empty suitcase to Guangzhou because
oh my gosh, yes.
we was already buying so much stuff. We bought portable chargers, we bought like cables for our phones. I got a whole new case for my phone, got a screen protector, and it cost barely anything.
Yeah, it was really, really well priced, like way cheaper than you'd get it anywhere else. You're going almost direct to the source, so it's perfect. So yeah, definitely would recommend visiting there. We had limited space in our backpacks, so we couldn't buy too much, but yeah, I think it was a really cool city, very modern, and it was really cool at night as well.
Yeah, there's an area that you can go to that basically it's in the centre between two malls. We'll put the name of it on screen now, but you can get a really good view of Canton Tower, and that kind of lights up in the evening and looks beautiful. Like Chinese cities are just the best thing. Like nothing will change my mind about that. There's nowhere better than China for cities.
They're on a whole other level.
Whole other level, and every city's so cool, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're all quite different as well. You know, you don't get bored going to different cities. They've all got their own unique charm, haven't
they? They have, and they all do like a blend of old and new, and Guangzhou definitely did this. One of the things about Guangzhou, which was actually really different, is the European influence. We went to like an old European area, and the architecture is very different to anywhere else you'll see in China.
Yeah, it felt like being back in Europe, didn't it?
Yeah, we've heard about the places in China that kind of replicate European cities around the world, but this is like genuine European architecture. Is there anything we would change if we was to revisit Guangzhou? Other than bringing an empty suitcase? Probably not. No, we did enjoy our time there. We probably would revisit again because we did like Guangzhou. There's probably more to explore than what we did, but again, by this point we were very, very tired from our trip. I think it would be a good place to start a trip if you wanted to explore more of South China, to fly into Guangzhou. So yeah, in the future we probably would revisit as a starting point again.
Yeah, that's really, really true. And I think as well, for me anyway, it's really made me want to now go and visit Shanghai.
Yeah, that's quite big on our list for our next China trip.
Oh, we're definitely going to be planning another China trip. It's all we've been talking about since we've got back, isn't it? Yeah. It
has, yeah. So that kind of brings us to the end of our itinerary. Believe it or not, that covered about 30 days in China. The times we've said for each place don't all include the trains in between. So we did have travel days in between that. We just wanted to give kind of a realistic idea of how much time we actually spent in a destination and how much time we'd recommend spending in a destination.
Yeah.
If you agree with anything we said, please let us know in the comments. Likewise, if you disagree, then we're no experts on China. This is just our opinion. So let us know in the comments what you think. If you've got any other areas of China that you think are worth exploring, we'd love to know, because we really want to do another trip in China. So please comment below. And if not, then we will see you on the next video, where we will be talking about Zhangjiajie National Park, which would we say is one of our favourite places in China?
It's awesome, so stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for that one. If you don't already, like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and we will see you on the next video.
Thank you for watching.